You are watching one of the most important moments in the NBA this season. Down by 3, 10.2 seconds left.
LaMelo! Yes! With the guts of a cat burglar! We're tied at 97!
Then in overtime, down 1.
LaMelo off the screen, downhill, the kick. Miller for 3, no good!
Brick. In this game, LaMelo Ball would tie a career high with 38 points, but it didn't matter. The Hornets still lost. For the season, LaMelo currently ranks 4th in the NBA in points per game with 29.9. A massive leap up from last year's 23.9, as LaMelo is making a league-high 4.9 threes a game. Throughout NBA history, there have only been 4 players in their 5th seasons who have averaged at least 28 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. Oscar Robertson, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan. After 2 years of injury, year 5 LaMelo is on pace to join this historic list and he's doing this after he already signed a max contract. The man has already been paid. So clearly, the desire to be one of the game's all-time best is still in him, which means really, the question is LaMelo Ball a future NBA superstar? Have 2 years of injuries and playing on one of the worst franchises to ever exist, I'm sorry Hornets, but we're going to get into that, caused us to forget that at one point in time, a lot of people saw LaMelo Ball as the future of basketball. Is that future superstardom still coming? A tough question, but we're getting to the answer, so what's up, Mike here, and right away. I do think we need to focus on the fact that, as a young prospect in this league, LaMelo Ball has proven to be among elite company on the stat sheet. Here's the list of every player who has averaged at least 18 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds per game in their first 4 seasons. LaMelo is here, and his hard stats are better than a lot of Hall of Famers at this point in his career. The problem is, on this list of 15 players, only Cade Cunningham ranks lower than LaMelo in terms of win shares. So are these empty stats that are meaningless, or are the Hornets just that bad and LaMelo is facing the consequences? Well, Charlotte hasn't made the playoffs since 2016. They have never, as a franchise, reached the Eastern Conference Finals, and they have not been out of the first round since 2002. When it comes to their team history as a whole, the Hornets' all-time leaders in win shares are Kemba Walker, number 1, Gerald Wallace, 2, Muggsy Bogues, 3, Larry Johnson, 4, and Del Curry, Steph Curry's dad, number 5. Del was a great shooter. It's concerning that he ranks 5th on this list ahead of Cody Zeller. The Hornets have also been terrible recently. They had just 27 wins in 2023 and 21 in 2024. However, in 2022, when LaMelo made the All-Star team in just his 2nd season, Charlotte did win 43 games as hype began to build around a young, Melo-centered team until we had the horrendous Miles Bridges situation, combined with LaMelo's injuries, which sent the Hornets back to the bottom of the East, where they seemingly have belonged. But really, Hornets fans are not going to mind their terrible history if LaMelo Ball is a top 5 player in this league in the future. If he is really a superstar you can build a franchise around, the Hornets believe he is. They gave him the deal of a franchise star. There is no denying that this current Hornets roster is awful. 39-year-old Taj Gibson has already started 5 games for the Hornets this season. 34-year-old Seth Curry has started 4. Right now, of course, LaMelo Ball ranks 1st in the Hornets in scoring. What's notable is that 22-year-old Brandon Miller is 2nd on this team in scoring. Miller has shown flashes of potential, but with 15.7 points per game on 37.4% shooting from the field, you'd be hard-pressed to find a worse second scorer in the league. Currently, that's not to say anything about Brandon Miller's potential. I am just emphasizing how awful this roster is. Even Miles Bridges, who was once seen as LaMelo's wingman, is shooting less than 40% from the field in general and less than 50% from 2. There is one clear bright spot here, and that is LaMelo Ball. His on-court stats show us that for the 2025 season so far, when LaMelo is playing, the Hornets have an offensive rating of 112.8 and an effective field goal percentage of 53.6%, which means theoretically, if LaMelo was on the court at all times, the Hornets would rank tied for for 16th in the NBA in offensive rating and 20th in effective field goal percentage, which is, of course, not even good. But without LaMelo, this team resembles the Washington Generals. When LaMelo is not on the court, the Hornets have an offensive rating of 100.3, which would rank dead last in the NBA behind Portland by a noticeable margin. And also, if you took LaMelo off of this roster, does this team win 10 games is a good question. With that said, I have a question for you. When did Steph Curry make his first All-Star team? The answer, his 5th season. Yes, despite the fact that Steph did play 3 years in college at Davidson, it was not until year 5 that Steph made the All-Star team, but then in year 6, he was an MVP and a champion. Now you may be immediately thinking, whoa Mike, calm down, LaMelo Ball is not Steph Curry. But how do we know how good LaMelo Ball is on such a terrible team? We need to remember that at one point in time, even the Warriors were not convinced that Steph Curry was a future star. Due to nagging ankle problems, Steph Curry only played in 26 games in his 3rd season, and he averaged just 14.7 points per game and 28.2 minutes per game during that year. Those are not the numbers of a future all-time generational talent, and because of this, Golden State was able to sign Steph to a dirt cheap deal. 4 years, $44 million, which even at that point in time was $16 million less than the max contract he could have signed. Bleacher Report called this deal at the time the steal of the century. Oh wait, the headline here was Stephen Curry contract extension is risky business for the Golden State Warriors. This article even said it's a little surprising the Warriors couldn't get Curry for less than they did. No one, except maybe Steph himself, saw his rise to absolute superstardom coming. Even his dad did not believe that Steph would be this good. This cheap extension allowed Golden State to take on Kevin Durant's salary, giving them one of the best teams the NBA has ever seen, the 2017 Warriors, who won 67 games and in the playoffs went 16-1 with their only loss coming to LeBron James and the Cavaliers in the finals. In his 4th season when Steph Curry was on the court, the Golden State Warriors had an offensive rating of 108.5 and an effective field goal percentage of 51.6%, which would have ranked them 7th in the NBA in both categories if Steph was always playing. Without Steph, their offensive rating fell to 100.4, their effective field goal percentage fell to 47.3%, which would have been good for 29th as a team in the NBA in offensive rating in 2013, and 27th in effective field goal percentage. Steph's impact on the offensive end was a sign of things to come. As for LaMelo, he unfortunately again is playing on such a bad roster that it's hard to fully see. Defensively, we have to note that the Hornets have also gotten worse while LaMelo is on the court. We need to be fair, we need a clear picture here. So I dug, and the same held true for Steph in year 4 as well. And what's interesting here is that in LaMelo's 2nd season, when he made the All-Star team, when he was surrounded by much better talent, the Hornets not only won their 43 games, but also LaMelo on the defensive end only caused the Hornets to play slightly worse defensively according to on-off court stats. Now, these on-off court stats are heavily influenced at times by the lineup that you're always playing with. Year 2 LaMelo has shown us that a team can win with LaMelo running the show. Imagine now averaging around 30 points per game if he was locked in on a team that actually had a chance to do something. It's here where I really believe that comparing LaMelo to the rest of his draft class is important. Because when we do this, one thing is clear. Anthony Edwards has taken a massive lead in this draft due to his playoff success, though Ant has had the benefit of playing with veteran talent such as Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, while LaMelo has had no one comparable in his basketball life. Last year, he was playing with Gordon Hayward. The best he's seen is Terry Rozier. Not only does LaMelo compare well to Anthony Edwards, he in fact clearly compares well to the other top 3 players in this draft. Looking at LaMelo Ball's first 4 seasons compared to Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, and Tyrese Maxey, we see that yes, in terms of points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game, LaMelo stands right there with 3 of the brightest young players in the league, 2 of which just played for Team USA. The biggest difference between the 4 of them is that LaMelo has had a DeMarcus Cousins-like king situation where management has currently failed to bring in new talent around